What's poppin', B? It's your boy Torple back at it again with another dev diary for Hand of Doom. In the last video, I introduced you to the world of Hand of Doom and gave you a sneak peek at the story and some of the gameplay. Since then, I've thought about the different things that inspired the game in the first place. Now, I'm kind of a games hipster, and I realize that since most of my inspirations are old and obscure, a lot of people probably aren't that familiar with them. So in this dev diary, I'm going to walk you through the different games, aesthetics, and music that have influenced Hand of Doom. I've boiled down the influences for Hand of Doom into three main sources: RPGs of the early to mid-90s, full motion video, or FMV, point-and-click games from the same time period, and the doom metal music genre. Each of these contributes some aspect of the aesthetic, gameplay, or atmosphere to the game, and I'll go through each of these categories to share specific works that lend their power to Hand of Doom, starting with the FMV games. FMV stands for full motion video. The term itself simply refers to cutscenes that are pre-rendered, meaning that they don't happen in the game's engine at runtime. They were created separately, so all the game has to do is press the play button. Over time, however, this term has become synonymous with live-action video with real actors, rather than just any old pre-rendered cutscene. This is the kind of FMV I'm talking about. There are a lot of incredible FMV games out there that are essentially just full-length interactable movies, and they were made for all sorts of genres. But the ones I'm interested in are the horror ones. There are two aspects to FMV stuff that I think are really effective. One is I think it's a great way to invoke horror, as there's already something inherently unsettling about seeing a real-life actual person in a digital nightmare. The other is that as uncanny and creepy as it can get, it goes just as much in the opposite direction towards the funny end of the spectrum. Anyone who's played Harvester knows what I mean. It's just goofy. The characters, dialogue, and even the characters' movement are just silly. The game is full to the brim with tongue-in-cheek humor, as well as blood, gore, and murder. The latter is often so over the top that it loops back around to become goofy again. I think there can be a thin line between horror and comedy, and adding FMV can often blur that line, whether it's intentional or not. All of these are hallmarks of the FMV horror games of the time, and it's something I hope to capture in Hand of Doom. I plan for the story to be primarily told in FMV cutscenes with real actors, and to have in-game characters portrayed in the same way. There's only a small taste of FMV in the game as of now, because it takes, like, a really long time to do, but soon enough you'll be able to see my take on FMV horror. And believe me, if you've seen any of my previous games, you should have no worries about how goofy it can get. The next category is actually not that far removed from the FMV point-and-click games. These are the RPGs of the early to mid-90s. Both genres actually have quite a bit of overlap, since using this method allowed for much faster and cheaper asset and cutscene generation than creating 3D models and animations at that time. What that gives us are games featuring characters that look more like cosplayers or LARPers, which is perfect for that unintentionally funny look that I'm such a big fan of. This era of PC games was full of fantasy dungeon crawlers that explored all the different ways you can level up characters by beating up goblins in a dungeon. But there were a few in particular that had enough sauce on them to catch my attention. Honestly, the gameplay in a lot of these older games is a little hard for me to get into. Approachability and accessibility weren't exactly at the forefront when these games came out, and game design has come a long way since. The biggest influence taken from this genre for Hand of Doom was the look and feel of the game's UI and graphical style, as well as some elements of the gameplay, such as the point-and-click interaction and the intentional clunkiness of the controls. My goal with Hand of Doom is to make a modern version of these games, to take all the good things they did and modernize them with updated design sensibilities, accessibility options like rebindable controls and subtitles, and a less frustrating take on game design. If the first two categories set up the story delivery and gameplay of Hand of Doom, the next category influences the aesthetic, the feeling, the flavor of the game, and that is Doom Metal. What is Doom Metal, you ask? Well, according to Wikipedia, it is defined as a subgenre of heavy metal music that typically uses slower tempos, low-tuned guitars to make a thicker or heavier sound than other heavy metal genres. Both the music and the lyrics intend to evoke a sense of despair, dread, or impending doom. It all started with Black Sabbath in the 70s and has evolved into a myriad of other subgenres over the years, which is just what happens with metal subgenres anyway. Seriously, metalheads love making new subgenres. I'm honestly not really sure that we need all of these, but there you go. Doom metal lyrics usually include such uplifting themes as suffering, depression, grief, fear, and death. There are two songs in particular that served as the inspiration for the entire game in the first place. Wicked Wizard by the band Orodruin and Master's Chamber by Pilgrim. Both of these songs tell a story through the eyes of someone trapped in eternal servitude to an evil sorcerer, and I wanted to try to make a game that captured both the story and the feeling of those songs. To truly capture the spirit of Doom, I want the player to feel that all is lost, that their doom has been sealed and there's no way out. Sounds fun, right? I think so too. This is what led to the original Hand of Doom, and this is what still drives the narrative today. And that's it! Now you know the three major components that have influenced Hand of Doom to bring it where it is today, and the direction it's heading for tomorrow. I hope you enjoyed taking a look at some of the things that inspire me, and if you liked anything you saw or heard, I encourage you to go check them out for yourself. Hand of Doom is still early in development, but you can expect to see me sharing more of the game as it develops in dev diaries like this, and on my Twitter @Torpledook. So go follow me there, or else. That's all from me today. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.